My name's Larry Newman. I am an assistant district attorney in the New York County District Attorney's Office. I am a deputy unit chief in our domestic violence unit inside our Special Victims Bureau. We have always had a domestic violence unit, a sex crimes unit, a child abuse unit, and an elder abuse unit. For the first time, there seems to be a recognition that domestic violence is complicated and we all need to talk to each other, which is one of the very important reasons why people from my office, I think, ought to be at panels and events like this. We need to talk to the people out there doing the civil work. The people doing the civil work need to talk to those of us doing the criminal work, and maybe together we can help combat the problem. Mr. Vance has been a big proponent of the multidisciplinary approach, and he has supported our bureau and all the trial bureaus in the office by creating a crime strategies unit, which is exactly what it sounds like. It means thinking about crime and trying to figure out ways to solve it long term. As lawyers, we all like to think that we're very important people. What we know in domestic violence is that we're probably not as important as we'd like to be. We are probably not going to solve the problem. We are probably not going to save the person by handling the case in criminal court. We are probably not going to solve the problem by putting the bad guy in jail, if we're able to put the bad guy in jail. What we are part of a process. Our process is supported by our cyber crimes unit, another new creation under DA Vance. And the cyber crimes unit is fantastic because it's a recognition of another thing that we all know, and that's that these crimes that we're talking about today, this cyberbullying, it's not something new. It's not a new crime. It's an old crime. These are old patterns of abuse. These are old patterns of control. These are ways for people to harass and bully and commit violence over a new medium. And we need to address the new medium and deal with it. A minute about domestic violence and how it's defined in New York. It's a fairly broad and expansive definition, which is fantastic, because while criminal cases are treated very similarly, regardless of the relationship between parties, there are a lot of civil protections that apply. Someone can get an order of protection, which is really one of the most basic and fundamental goals of a DV case. Parties do not need to be married legally. They do not need to be engaging in a sexual relationship. The phrase is an intimate relationship. So that applies to so many of these cyberbullying situations because we're talking about boyfriend and girlfriend and people who go to school together and teens. And now they can at least get orders of protection together. It's something that I know you civil people have fought very, very hard to get this expansive definition, and it means an awful lot. So cyberbullying, these are old crimes over a new medium. There are a lot of challenges, obvious challenges, that come with technology, especially on my side of the fence. The way for people to hurt each other is constant and fastly evolving. Twitter, Facebook, these things weren't around 10 years ago, and we need to know how to deal with that. We need to know how to subpoena these records. We need to know how to work with these companies. These things shouldn't be such a problem, but they obviously are. It takes resources to deal with all the many, many computer devices that we all have now, that all our bad guys have. It is great. The advantage is fantastic. We have evidence that we didn't have maybe 10 years ago. We have evidence of people trying to hurt each other. We have evidence of people harassing each other. But this evidence means that we have to get to it. And that takes time, and it takes money. From what I hear, that money thing isn't something we have a lot of these days. It also takes a fair bit of training. We need to know how to get to these areas. And just because we're able to capture messages off a cell phone, and we're able to capture messages off Facebook, we still have to prove, and it's a very significant challenge for us, these are very hard cases, we still have to prove who the person sending these messages was. So user identification is a nice way of saying that these cases still hinge on good old-fashioned police work. A few words about some of the common crimes in this area. We already have laws against a lot of this stuff. Aggravated harassment, with the intent to harass, annoy, or alarm another person. The bad guy communicates with the person by transmitting or delivering any other form of written communication in a manner likely to cause annoyance or alarm. It doesn't matter if it's on Facebook or if it's on Twitter or some other medium. Computer tampering, I suppose, is a new crime, and it highlights some of these new forms of exerting power and control. Without authorization, intentionally alters in any manner or destroys computer data or computer program of another person. Something we see, something that's very common, changing someone else's Facebook page. What could be more embarrassing in the technological age than putting some obscene or embarrassing materials up for the entire world to see? If anything, what computers have done is it broadens the amount, it broadens the audience for the abuse. If you thought getting made fun of in high school in a locker room was bad, try the entire internet. We do have some stalking charges. It's when someone engages in a course of conduct. It's a very good charge for us. It's a very important law because it allows us to charge someone for all the various different forms of abuse all at once under one charge. Most cases of domestic violence and cyberbullying are misdemeanors. They're punishable by up to a year in jail. Mr. Vance has been proposing and supporting legislation to make domestic violence recidivism a felony. And if you all have been paying attention to the newspapers, you can see that more than ever, while New York City is safe and lots of forms of violence have gone down, domestic violence has not. We had, I think, a 7% increase in domestic violence arrests last year. Well, that probably speaks to increased reporting and increased police work and a lot of positive things. The fact remains that domestic violence needs to be addressed. It is a felony if you damage a car twice in a 5-year period of time. If you have 2 convictions for auto stripping, a misdemeanor, damaging the antenna on a car or some such, that would be a felony crime. Severely beating your spouse, or in the cyberbullying context, committing this sort of global harassment, you can do it as much as you want. It stays a misdemeanor right now. It seems absolutely absurd, and if there's a takeaway message from my part, it's that cyberbullying is more important and bigger than it expands domestic violence in a way that we never thought possible. It makes it more serious than we ever thought possible. And it needs to be dealt with accordingly. So, thank you.